So it's another Tuesday live training. And the weather is fine here in the Republic of Ireland. I don't know what it's like in your part of the world, but the last couple days since I've been back have been actually absolutely amazing. So hopefully the same is true with yourselves. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, today I want to spend a bit of time, and there's a reason I want to have this lesson today about the importance of leadership, not only in the system but in the business. Obviously, we're there's some of us who have just recently made it to the position as joint venture partners. Some of you are still on your journey to becoming joint venture partners, but leadership plays a big, big role in everything in our business. So I just want to spend a little bit of time today kind of talking about, in my opinion, how it actually how it plays within our system and within our business, and what I believe makes an effective leader. So, are you a leader? Well, that's kind of a broad question, I suppose, but it really depends on where you are in your journey. When I say are you a leader, I'm not talking about in your profession, I'm not talking about amongst your family members. I'm talking about within our business. Are you a leader? The reason that we have things set up within our business the way that it takes 6 months to become a joint venture partner is because I believe you need that time to grow. You need that time to learn. You need that time to experience firsthand everything that we're doing here to make you an effective leader. Because if you're at the position of a joint venture partner or close to it, you're moving into that leadership position. You're building a team around you. You're going to be going ahead and you're going to be leading those individuals. So that's, like I say, that's why I want to spend some time, because we just had our graduation last week for some of you here. And I know some people will be watching this recording at a later stage, and that's okay too. But no matter where you are in your journey, you will ultimately become a leader. And that's really important. And it's important in your professional and your personal life. It's something that we don't really focus on enough within the business. We tend to focus on, the day-to-days of running the operation, what we're doing, the presentations we're doing, the interaction with our clients and our prospects. But one of the biggest benefits you're going to get from being part of our network is developing your leadership skills and growing into that leadership position. Because it's truly, it's valuable in so many aspects of your life, and I'm sure you can appreciate that. But I don't think you always take the time. I know I don't always take the time to really reflect on it, the benefit that you're getting along the way, and becoming a leader and developing into a leader. Some say leaders are born. I'm not sure. I imagine that there is a certain element of truth to that. I'm sure there are the exceptions that there are some leaders that they're just born leaders. But in my opinion, the greater majority of leaders, well, they're more molded. They're more molded through their experiences over a period of time, their surroundings, their environment, the people that they're interacting with. And it takes time. But that's what's going on right now, right here with you. You're primarily you're being molded into a leader. And again, I'm not talking about, I'm sure some of you hold very powerful positions in your professional life. I'm sure you have big families, some of yous, and you're the head of that family or one of the heads of the family, and you're a leader. Could be a leader in your community, in your church. And I'm talking about being molded as a leader here with one source in our personal development network. So, what makes a great leader? Well, there's a lot of things. And I'm going to give you some of the things that I believe personally makes a great leader. I'm sure I'm going to miss a lot. So if there's any that you can think of, feel free to voice your opinion or drop me a mail afterwards. But I've just spent some time and I really tried to reflect on it to the best of my ability to try to come up with the qualities and the skills that I believe within our organization is a requirement to become a great leader. The first, well, I really do believe, John C. Maxwell, if you're not familiar with him, I suggest you do get familiar with him. He's a motivational speaker and an author, but he specializes in leadership. And he says a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. But what does that mean if we break it down? A leader is one that knows the way. Well, that's part of why we take 6 months for you to go ahead and you start at a level where you're just using the system and you're working on the one-to-one basis and you're coming to do those early lessons before you become a joint venture partner. You're learning the way. You go the way because you're using the system. And once you know the way and you're going the way, well, then it's time to start showing the way. And you don't start out that strong, I'm sure. Maybe some are stronger than others. But we all start out at, the level we're at. And you get better as you go along. You become more effective with the prospects, more effective with the clients that you're working with. I really do believe in this one by Jack Welch. Before you're a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others. And that's so true. At the very beginning, especially in your journey here with OneSource, when you're on that path to becoming a leader, it really is just about growing yourself, learning by doing. But once you become a level to a certain level, whether it be joint venture partner or thereabouts, well, the focus should really change. Yes, you're going to continue to focus on yourself. Yes, you're going to continue to grow on your own personal development journey. But the focus should be more shifted to the success of others, helping those people around you to become successful. And in my opinion, the best way to do that is, well, by personal example. The most powerful leadership tool you have is your own personal example. We have to always be very aware of that, especially as your team begins to grow and people begin to look to you as that leadership. You don't want to be, and it doesn't mean you have to be perfect. That's the one thing that I want to really stress. It doesn't mean that you have to be at the ideal weight and you have to, really look the part and you have to be so confident and you've got to be so financially successful. No, it just means that you're doing the best you can, and each and every day you're making that microscopic progress. You're going in the right direction on a consistent basis, in my opinion. Part of the reason I created this system and I wanted to market this system, well, initially I created it for myself, but when I made the decision to market it, I never wanted to be looked at myself personally as the role model. I didn't want to be a Tony Robbins type of character or anything of that level or nature whatsoever. I wanted the focus always to be on the system. However, if you're the individual that's sharing the system, if you're the individual that's working with the prospects, you are going to be looked upon to maintain a certain level, I suppose. To maintain a certain level of, you can call it success. I like to refer to it as standards. You set a standard for yourself that you live up to, and you do it on a consistent basis. And it doesn't mean that you're never going to fail. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have bad days or bad weeks, even. We all have them. But it just means you just keep getting back on track and you keep moving forward and you do it consistently. That's what you need to be very aware of. That's the example that I'm referring to. A person's always doing his or a person always doing his or her best becomes a natural leader just by example. And again, that's the key thing there, doing his or her best. It doesn't mean that you're better than everybody around you. It doesn't mean that you're, again, at the perfect weight or you're, the most financially successful. You could be working with people who are far better. I work with people on a consistent basis who are in far better shape than I am, financially, spiritually, physically, every element of it. But again, I do the best that I can. You do the best that you can. That's the example that we need to really focus on. So, and when you do that, well, that's when you have the ability to inspire. When people can see over a period of time that you're consistent with your actions, it does give you the ability to inspire those individuals, but it takes time. Again, and I'm going to keep going back to this. That's why it's so important that everybody understands the journey you're on here with the whole personal development with OneSource, and and you're building your business in such a way. It does take time, but it takes that time to get to a position where you can inspire, to instill in someone the motivation, enthusiasm, and courage to do better things and to achieve more. Great leaders, this is an extremely important one, I think. Great leaders are great listeners. It's so important when you're doing one-to-ones, when you're interacting, when you're working with those prospects, those clients, with your team, that you're listening. You don't always want to be talking at people. You don't always want to be patting yourself on the back, talking about all the progress you've made. I'm not saying you can't share, but you have to be a good listener. You have to try to really take the time to pick up on those things that are important to those individuals. Because you're not going to be able to provide the solutions. You're not going to be able to help that individual if you're not really taking the time to listen. So something to be extremely aware of. And I know some of you are amazing listeners. Some of you can use a little bit of work, and I'll say that not in a negative way, but there's no question about it, because I've joined a lot of one-to-ones, and I think sometimes you need to maybe work on those listening skills, and myself as well. I'm not excluding myself, but it's something we all need to be very aware of, the importance of being a good listener. Because if you're not listening, you're never going to really be able to provide the solutions. People that work with us, yes, some of them are on board because they want to be involved in the business. Wonderful. But part of that business is working on themselves, creating the changes in their own lives, being on that personal development journey. Well, they're looking for solutions. And you, me, us, we're in a position to help them and provide those solutions to different problems that they're facing, whether it be again, with their health, their relationships, their finances, whatever the case may be, because we're further along in the journey. We're further along and we've been using it more and we've been educating ourselves more. And we should be in a position, the majority of time, to provide those solutions. And if you don't have the solution right then and there on the spot, well, I would highly encourage you to do a bit of research, to contact some of the others, contact me, contact some of the other team. Let's see if we can have a mastermind to come up with some solutions. Because that's what this whole thing is about. Providing solutions to problems, providing encouragement, so many other things as well, but solutions is a big, big part of everything that we're doing here. And to encourage, not false praise, true encouragement. When you're working with an individual and you're reflecting on their dashboard, are you truly giving encouragement or are you giving false praise? People know the difference. You want to make sure that it's genuine. That you're giving them encouragement when they're doing the right things. You're trying to catch them doing something right. Definitely not looking for something they're doing wrong, especially in the early days. But to encourage and nurture that individual. We all need it. We all need a genuine pat on the back from time to time. We all need a little bit of encouragement to try harder, to apply ourselves a little bit more in a nurturing, encouraging way, though. We don't want, you don't need a kick in the ass or anything like that. That's not what any of this is about. You want to encourage them, though, whenever you can, but you want to do it in a professional, genuine way. And when you catch them doing something right, definitely you want to make a note of it and you want to bring it to their attention and let them know that you've noticed it. Knowledge. To be a true leader, to be an effective leader, you have to always be trying to acquire more knowledge. You always have to be trying to improve your skill set. And it's an ongoing thing. It's never just, okay, I've learned it, I'm ready to go now, and that's it, I'm done. It's always going to be an ongoing journey. And it's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit you in your business and in your personal life. But to provide the solutions, you always have to be trying to improve and learn more. That's a big part of what these Tuesday sessions are all about. They're all about primarily increasing your knowledge base, reinforcing what you already know a lot of times. But again, that's just maybe cementing that knowledge in you at a higher level. But you always want to be increasing your knowledge base so you can provide more effective solutions to the problems that those prospects and those clients are facing. But you want to make sure, well, if you make a mistake, you admit it. We all make mistakes. Sometimes you could provide a solution. Maybe it wasn't the right solution. It could possibly have been a mistake. Own it. Don't try to cover it up. Definitely don't ever try to shift the blame or, put the focus on them. Well, maybe they didn't do it right. Maybe you provide a solution and it was the best you thought at the time. But in hindsight, it was a mistake. Own up to it. You don't have to bow and you don't have to, beg forgiveness. You did the best you could at the time. But people want to know that, you're humble enough to go ahead and admit when you make a mistake. I've done it many times and I'll do it many more. I do the best that I can with the clients that I work with, always. But there's no question about it. There's sometimes I've provided solutions or offered solutions, and in hindsight, when I reflect upon it, it wasn't really a good suggestion at all. So you have to, especially if the people ain't producing the results, you want to make sure that you're humble enough to admit when you push somebody too hard, or when you don't push somebody hard enough, a mistake that maybe you made that's costing them. But again, there's no shame in it. None of us are perfect, but we're not expected to be perfect. But again, own it. Own up to it, I suppose, is a better way of putting it. Brian Tracy. I don't probably talk enough about Brian Tracy, but Brian Tracy, you've heard a few of his things that I've mentioned to you, but I suggest you take time to learn some of the techniques that he talks about, and some of his. He's got some really effective books. He's got a lot on YouTube. But Brian Tracy has been around for a very long time. He looks old here, but trust me, in real life, he's a lot older than that now. But integrity is the most valuable and respected quality of leadership. Always keep your word. That's a common sense approach, but you need to remember that. And I'm not saying that you can't ever forget something, or if you say you're going to do something, do your best to do it. But if you really commit to something and you give your word to somebody, do it. Doesn't mean that, again, and if you make the mistake and you don't do it, own it. Just like we just said about being humble when you make a mistake. But integrity is the most valuable and respected quality of leadership. Always, always, always keep your word. You give your word to somebody, make sure you keep it. Because a lot of times people won't say it, but they notice it. They notice when you're so quick to say, "Oh, I give you my word, that'll be done. I'll get that over to you, or I'll do this, or I'll do that." And I'm guilty of it myself. Again, nobody's saying, that nobody ever makes a mistake. But again, do your best to always keep your word. And when you don't, and when you're aware of it, own it and be humble enough to go ahead and admit you made a mistake and correct it. This is very relevant, I believe, to our business specifically. True leaders don't create followers. They create more leaders. That's what I'm trying to do with everybody who I work with. I'm not just trying to, I don't want to create a bunch of followers. And you've heard me say this many times. That's the way that's the reason I've structured things the way that I've structured them within the business. I do not want a bunch of followers. I encourage you to take the same approach and the same attitude towards building your business. What you want is you want to create effective leaders. Effective leaders, not followers, is what's going to make your business secure and grow wide and deep. You don't want to be doing everything yourself. You don't want to be in a position where you have a bunch of followers and everybody is looking for you to do everything. So if you're at the position now as a joint venture partner, I really encourage you to start developing some of the people you're working with and the future people you work with to become leaders themselves. Again, help them, support them, encourage them, work with them, but try to build them up to the level that you're working as equals. It's not you, it's not me doing all of it. Again, in the early days, yeah, you're going to have a larger role to play, just like I did and just like I still do. But as time goes by, you want that playing field to become more and more level. You don't want to create a bunch of followers. That's not what this is about. Not in my opinion. It's not the way I want to grow the business. I want to develop true leaders, people that can come up with their own solutions, people that can be creative and come up with additional products and services, people who can think outside the box as far as recruitment. Again, not just looking for me or you to provide all the solutions. Again, in the early days, no problem. But as you go down that path, as you develop work with people, you want to make sure you're developing them to become leaders themselves, not just followers. The key to successful leadership is influence, not authority. Again, that's how you're going to develop people not to be followers, to become leaders themselves, with your influence. You influence primarily, you're going to influence, excuse me. Let me take a sip of water, sorry. You're going to influence individuals for the example that you set for them. And a number of everything that we're talking about now is how you're going to influence those individuals become leaders themselves, not through authority. You're not looking to primarily be the boss, you know, that we're doing it this way and that's the only way there is to it. That's not what this is about. That's not ever how you're going to become a leader in this business. You're going to do it with your influence, not your authority. The best leaders have a high consideration factor. They really care about their people. And that's something that I do believe the greater majority of everybody here and everybody involved has. Because truthfully, the majority of people do not make it to any significant level within our organization if you don't really care about the people you're working with. It's almost, I don't know, I think part of your makeup is that you actually care about people deeply and you are considerate and you have that high consideration factor, but you have to care about the people. I always hope that comes through when I work with people, that I generally do care about everybody involved in this organization. And I want to see you succeed and I want to support you any way that I can. But again, I want you to develop your skills and I want you to become a leader as well. But I really do care. And I don't think that's an issue with anybody. Nobody that's been brought to my attention. Not if you make it to any significant level here. Usually would drop out long before, because if you don't care about people, there's a lot of other ways to make a living. So, but I think the majority of people, if not all the people here, generally do care about the people that they work with. Leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. So this comes back to leading by example. You have a vision. I have a vision of where you want your business to go, where you want your life to go, and you share that. But you can't always be sharing it only. You have to walk the walk. You've got to have the ability, I suppose, to create that vision and turn it into reality over a period of time. Because that's how you're going to inspire people too. That's how you're going to, I suppose, motivate individuals, give them the drive and the belief that this works, is when they see you making the progress. So again, it all comes down to what we talked about at the very beginning. The most powerful tool you have as a leader is leading by example. But again, communicating your vision, and not only just communicating it always, making it go ahead and turn into a reality. Leaders must be close enough to relate to others, but far enough ahead to motivate them. Again, this comes back to what I said at the beginning and what I'll say again. This is the way it's structured, that you're working the system for 6 months before you become a joint venture partner. So you can be far enough ahead. That's why you have to be doing it for 3 months before you even begin working with any prospects whatsoever. You have to be that step ahead that, again, you can still relate to them. You can still go ahead and, you're very approachable. You're not at such a high level that you're intimidating anybody. You're still extremely relatable. But you may be that little bit ahead in your journey that you can go ahead and motivate those individuals that you're working with. I think that's a really important lesson to take away from this. Leaders must be close enough to relate to others, but far enough ahead to motivate them. Don't find fault, find a remedy. Henry Ford. One thing you want to be very aware of, and again, I know a lot of what I'm saying is common sense, but again, we want to go ahead and, through the power of repetition over and over and over again, make sure that we're driving home that message, that we're embedding it inside of you. But don't be looking for fault, especially in the early days. Try to come up with a solution, try to come up with a remedy. If they're not producing a result, don't always just point the finger to them and say, well, you're not producing a result because you're not doing this, you're not doing that. If you would have done this, you would have produced a result. I'm not saying don't hold people accountable. You want to hold them accountable. But you also want to be able to find solutions, find a remedy. Don't always just be trying to find a fault, point the finger. You have to go ahead and provide solutions, remedies, not just point the finger to try to find fault. Especially, and you've heard me say this before, it's so critical when you first start working with people, that first 90 days, that you're supporting them. You're trying to catch them doing something right. You're not trying to catch them doing something wrong. The best leaders never stop learning. Again, that's why you're here today. That's why you're here week after week. That's why you go and you log into that membership section. That's why you go ahead and you listen to those. If you can't make it, you listen to them at a later stage. You always want to be trying to learn more, add more tools to your personal development toolbox. Increase your level of skill on a consistent basis. Never stop. There's so much more to learn, so much more. We could be doing this for the next 100 years, and I still think there'd be more to learn. So the best leaders never stop learning. You want to make sure you take that seriously. All leaders make mistakes. That's part of life. Successful leaders recognize their errors, learn from them, and work to correct their faults. This goes back to what we said about being humble enough to admit when you make a mistake. But it's one thing just to admit that you made a mistake. You also have to recognize it, and you have to learn from it and then work to correct it, so you don't keep making the same mistake over and over and over again. We all make them, no question about it. But again, when you do give the wrong solution, when you give bad advice, own up to it, but try to learn from it. Try to identify, what did you do? What made you, offer that advice to that individual, provide that particular solution. Try to evaluate it and try to make sure, and it won't always work, but try to do your best, I suppose, to prevent it from happening again. Leadership is all about being of service to others, not being served by others. Be a mentor, not a boss. And again, I think that's relatively obvious, But again, I want to make sure everybody really gets that. We're nobody's boss here. I'm not your boss. You know, you want a boss, get a job. You know, that's not what this is about. We're mentors, we're coaches, we're consultants. That's the approach. That's the attitude. It's about serving others. Leadership is all about being of service. That's so true. Being of service to others, not being served by others. It's all about being a mentor, being a coach, being that consultant. That's the approach that you need to take. That's the approach that you need to get very good at. And you have to communicate on a consistent basis with those individuals you're working with. And don't ever make excuses. Again, if you make a mistake, own it, acknowledge it, try to learn from it, but don't make excuses. Focus on the result. You know, if it doesn't work, try something else. But keep on focusing on producing that results. You know, leaders don't make excuses. They create results. That's what people are looking for. That's what you're looking for. That's what I'm looking for. You're not giving up your time on a Tuesday just to come listen to me talk. I'm pretty confident of that. You're here primarily because, well, you're looking to produce a result. So again, if I fail you, I won't make excuses. If you fail somebody else, don't make an excuse, but learn from it. And again, focus on creating that result. Keep moving forward. Now, Simon Sinnek, I'm not sure, I know we've listened to one or two of his things in the past, TED Talks, but Simon Sinnek is a very unique individual. He has a very interesting style. Now, he generally talks about leadership in the business world, primarily in the corporate sector. That's his area of specialties. But I'm going to play a very quick 5 minutes on leadership. And it's more of a personal element that he's going to talk about. But I think it's very relevant to what we're doing here in our business. So it's only about, I think it's 5 minutes and 15 seconds. It's a relatively short one. So I just want to play this real quick. As a matter of fact, there you go. Leadership explained in 5 minutes. So we'll go ahead and we'll listen to this and then we'll wrap it up.
Do you love your wife? Yes. Prove it. Like, what's the metric? Give me the number that helps me know, right? Because when you met her, you didn't love her. Now you love her, right? Tell me the day the love happened. It's an impossible question. But it's not that it doesn't exist. It's that it's much easier to prove over time, right? Leadership is the same thing. It's about transitions. So if you were to go to the gym, it's like exercise, right? If you go to the gym and you work out and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing. And if you go to the gym the next day and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing, right? So clearly there's no results, can't be measured, it must not be effective. So we quit, right? Or if you fundamentally believe that this is the right course of action and you stick with it, like in a relationship, I bought her flowers and I wished her happy birthday, and she doesn't love me. Clearly I'll give up. That's not what happens. If you believe there's something there, you commit yourself to an act of service. You commit yourself to the regime, the exercise. You can screw it up. You can eat chocolate cake one day. You can skip a day or two. You know, it allows for that. But if you stick with it consistently, I'm not exactly sure what day, but I know you'll start getting into shape. I know it. And the same with the relationship. It's not about the events. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency, right? You go to the dentist twice a year, your teeth will fall out. You have to brush your teeth every day for 2 minutes. What does brushing your teeth twice a day for 2 minutes do? Nothing. Unless you do it every day, twice a day for 2 minutes, right? It's the consistency. Going to the gym for 9 hours does not get you into shape. Working out every day for 20 minutes gets you into shape. So the problem is we treat leadership with intensity. We have a 2-day offsite, we invite a bunch of speakers, we give everybody a certificate, you're a leader, right? Those things are like going to the dentist. They're very important. They're good for reminding us or getting us back on track, learning new lessons. But it's the daily practice of all the monotonous, little, boring things like brushing your teeth that matter the most. She didn't fall in love with you because you remembered her birthday and bought her flowers on Valentine's Day. She fell in love with you because when you woke up in the morning, you said good morning to her before you checked your phone. She fell in love with you because when you went to the fridge to get yourself a drink, you got her one without even asking. She fell in love with you because when you had an amazing day at work and she came home and she had a terrible day at work, you didn't say, yeah, but let me tell you about my day. You sat and listened to her awful day, and you didn't say a thing about your amazing day. This is why she fell in love with you. I can't tell you exactly what day, and it was no particular thing you did. It was the accumulation of all of those little things that she woke up one day, and it's as if she pressed a button. She goes, I love him, right? Leadership is exactly the same. There's no event. There's no thing I can tell you you have to do that your people will trust you. It just doesn't work that way. It's an accumulation of lots and lots of little things that anyone by themselves is innocuous and useless. Literally, pointless by themselves. People will look at little things that are good leadership practices and say, that won't work. And you're absolutely right. But if you do it consistently, and you do it in combination with lots of other little things, like saying good morning to someone, that looking them in the eye. My friend George, who's a 3-star general in the Marine Corps, he says his test for leadership, and I love this, he goes, his test for a good leader is if you ask somebody how their day is going, you actually care about the answer. A number of times we're walking to a meeting, we're rushing, we go, how are you? Not good, I got to get to you later, I'm late for a meeting. Right. If you ask the question, you were standing there and you were listening to the answer. It's those little innocuous things that you do over and over and over and over that people will say, I love my job. Not I like my job. I like my job means, yeah, the challenge is great, they pay me well, I like the people. I love my job means I don't want to work anywhere else. I don't care how much somebody else is willing to pay me. I'm devoted to the people here, and I care desperately about the people here as if they were my family. In business, we have colleagues and coworkers. In the military, they have brothers and sisters. That's how they think of each other. If you really have a strong corporate culture, the people will think of each other like brothers and sisters. It's like a family, right? No. Brothers and sisters. Deep love. Fight, but the love doesn't go away. Bicker, the love doesn't go away. And I'll fight with my sister, but if you threaten my sister, you're going to have to deal with me. Right? We'll fight internally. We'll bicker with each other, but nobody's going to hurt each other. And if anything from the outside shows up, you're looking at a unified front. Brothers and sisters. Now, how do you create brothers and sisters out of strangers? Common beliefs, common values, parents, in other words, executives who care about their children's success, who care to raise their children, teach them skills, discipline them when necessary, help them build their self-confidence so that they can go on and achieve something more than you could have ever imagined achieving for yourself. That's leadership.
That's leadership. And he's so right. When we talk about leadership, especially within OneSource and our network, all the things I just talked about, it's not one of those things. So you can do one of those things, you're not going to become a leader. It's just like everything else we talk about within our system. The consistent daily action. You don't become a leader in this organization or in life just because you do one or two of those things. You do them consistently. And just like what he talks about there, you won't ever be able to identify and put your finger on and say, this is the moment. You're not a leader now because you did 6 months and you're a joint venture partner. You're a leader now because of all the things you've done on a consistent basis over that 6 month and beyond that makes you a leader. But I really liked the way he phrased that. I thought that was very well said. And I think there's a really powerful message to everything about our organization wrapped up in that message there. But he also says leadership is not a rank or a position. It's a choice. It's a choice to look after a person to the left of us and a person to the right of us. I really think that we have that culture here. Yeah, we look after our clients, we look after our prospects, but I really do believe that we look after each other too. That's the culture that I want to inspire. That's the culture that I want to create. And I really want to encourage you to have here, that we look out for each other. It's an action. Leadership is an action. It's not a position. It's, again, you don't just become a joint venture partner, boom, it's a position now, you're a leader. No, that's why it takes 6 months. That's why you have to be using the system. That's why you have to be attending the classes. That's why you have to be doing the one-to-ones, and you have to be using your dashboard. It's all those combined daily, consistent actions that creates that position, that creates that leadership role within you, that turns you into a leader. So to wrap it up, I want to introduce you to John C. Maxwell and the 5 levels of leadership, and how I believe they work within one source. Now, if you're not familiar with John Maxwell, he has a lot of stuff out there online. He's written a few books, actually. This is one of my favorites, though. It's a very effective book on leadership in life and in the workplace. But I think it definitely has a lot of elements that translate very well into what we're doing here. So the 5 levels, and I encourage you, if you get the opportunity, to read it. Level 1 is position. People follow you because they have to. That's at the very early stages. It's great because you're in a position, you're either a personal development consultant or you're a joint venture partner, whatever the case may be. But somebody wants to get involved in the business. Well, they have to work with somebody. So they're placed under you, you recruit them, you go ahead and you identify them. But primarily, it's the first level of leadership. They're following you primarily because they have to. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's going to be the lowest level because you're going to have the highest amount of resistance. People don't like to follow people because they have to. They'll do it, but they don't truly, they do tend to resist. The highest level of resistance will always be at level 1. Level 2 is permission. Permission means people begin to follow you because they want to. They give themselves permission. They begin to respect you. They begin to give you credit for the skills you possess. Their level of resistance diminishes greatly at this stage because they've given you permission. You didn't ask for permission. They've given permission to themselves to go ahead and to follow you, to look to you as a leader, because again, they begin to respect you. But the first one is the position. They have no choice. This level 2 is permission. Level 3, production. Primarily, people follow because of what you have done for the organization, whether it be for one source or your business, or what you've done primarily within building your business. They begin to follow you because, well, they respect your ability. They see that you're committed to the cause. They see that primarily that you're working the business, you're doing all the things within the organization, and you deserve that position you're in within the organization. So it's all based on the production, what you've produced. Number 4, People follow you because what you've done for them. And that's a very high level. Very high level as far as following you as a leader and respecting you as a leader. Primarily because, well, it's not just what you've done for them personally, even though that's a big, big part of it, but what you've done for them to help them build their business. Because you got to remember, everybody who's involved with this, who's going to be in your organization, if you're working with them to develop them into leaders, well, they're doing it because they want to build a business. And they're looking to you to help them. And they're not going to respect you. Well, if you're not. If you're just going through the motions, meeting with them once a week, reviewing their dashboard, see you next week. If you're not following up with them, if you're not being proactive, if you're not helping them to achieve their personal goals, and if you're not helping them to achieve their business goals within the organization, there's going to be a lot of resistance here. But if you do those things consistently, this is extremely high level of respect that you'll get. And they'll become loyal followers, and they'll start to basically become leaders themselves, because they'll want to primarily duplicate what you're doing. They'll want to be like you. But the pinnacle is primarily level 5, the highest level of respect. People follow you because of who you are and what you represent. They've taken the time, they've really gotten to know you. They've gone through all the stages, all the different levels, and they truly do respect you as a leader. They know that you walk the walk, you don't just talk the talk. They know that if you give your word, you're going to keep it. They know that you're going to support them. They know that you know what you're doing and that you're actually producing the results that they want. They truly do respect you. But these are the 5 levels of leadership. And John Maxwell does a really good job, I believe, in outlining it in his book. But if you don't want to read the book, I strongly suggest spend a bit of time, go on to YouTube, listen to some of his stuff. There's a lot of great material that he has out there, and they'll outline the 5 levels of leadership there for you. But I think every one of these stages, every one of these levels, really, well, they coordinate very well with what we're doing here. Position, permission, production, people development, and the level 5, the pinnacle. They all relate to what we're doing here. So I encourage you to take a look at it, give it a read. It is a good book. And John C. Maxwell, he's been around for a long time. He knows what he's doing. He communicates very effectively too, I find. So, wrapping it up, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you're a leader. That's what you're all inspiring to do. It all comes down to your actions. If people can look to you and they can see, based on your actions, that you're producing the results that you're communicating to them, the vision that you're talking to them about, and again, you're walking that walk, you'll be a leader. So again, and it's not, you won't be able to pinpoint it to one action that you're doing. It'll be, primarily an accumulation of all these actions done on a daily, consistent basis, just like everything we do within our system that's going to transform you into a leader. And then that will be well worth anything that you've put into this, any money you've paid, any work you've put into it. Becoming a leader will stand to you, not only in your business, but in your personal life and every other aspect of your life as well. So, look, guys, we'll wrap it up with that. Hopefully you made some sense. You got some benefit from it. And other than that, we'll say thanks very much. I appreciate it as always. And questions, comments, concerns, I'll be around for a little bit. I got about a half hour before I got to jump on another call. So if you need anything, now's the time, reach out, and I'll be happy to do what I can. All right. Thanks, guys. Good seeing everybody again. Thanks for coming. See you soon.